The Lexus LC500 is the best car I have ever driven, and much of its greatness and weakness comes from a backwards philosophy. Today I'm going to explain that and how, for 2024, it may have achieved perfection. Lexus introduced a plethora of updates. For 2023 and before, you actually did not have a 360 view camera, just parking sensors, which are nice, but with a nose like this and a six-figure price tag, it should show me my future and any government secrets, let alone its surroundings. So for 2024, Lexus has added a 360 view camera, and that will display on Lexus's new multimedia system. It comes with a 12.3-inch touchscreen that's a lot more functional, but admittedly less sleek than the one that's found in my tester. And while we're crying about the loss of the analog clock and the glorious trackpad, Lexus is consoling us with standard wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Additionally, we now have a USB-C port, and lane centering, among other things, joins the updated active driver assistance features. So these are mostly practical tweaks, though they've also added a new bespoke edition, which allows for a higher degree of customizability, and we have a couple new colors and some changes to the wheel options. Now for the meat of this video. The first thing that separates the LC500 from any other car I've driven is the swagger. Normally I would not label style as a reason to pick up a vehicle, but the LC500 really has me tripping up on my words. Whether it's as a coupe or a convertible, I think this thing is distractingly gorgeous, and I've never gotten remotely this many compliments on any vehicle. The excessive Lexus design language really is pulled off well here. It looks one of a kind and not kind of concussed. And I think especially from certain angles, this looks like if you tried to draw a Lexus LFA from memory. The tri-beam LED projector headlamps are neat, as is the hypnotic LED taillights with the mirrors built in that make it look infinite. It's details like that that help it feel worth the price tag. And there's also sneaky stuff too, like the door handles, which pop out when prompted. And when you give them a little nudge, it locks the car too. Plus, you can actually pop the trunk lid with a well-hidden button integrated into the tail light. You also have giant 21-inch wheels, standard, and kind of a neat fact, you can use the convertible top at up to 31 miles per hour, which is really helpful if you're about to pull onto the highway and you want to put up the top. The next thing that I love about the LC500 is the interior. The quality feels like 111 grand. A lot of new premium vehicles are starting to adopt a more tech-focused or minimalist approach, and this just focuses on bringing you very authentic materials like leather everywhere, magnesium, you don't have any glossy finishes. It also seeks to make every inch of the cabin interesting. You have the most beautiful door handles, even the grab handles exude opulence. The buttons and dials you interact with for the HVAC or the radio controls are also satisfying. And with the now dated cars, I think you had a super clean dashboard, though the infotainment system here on the 2023 is more frustrating. A lot of things take extra steps, just like using your ventilated or heated seats, especially if you're also using CarPlay. It's unintuitive. And the new infotainment system is stripped down to the basics. You have a simple physical button to bring up your heated and ventilated seats, the heated steering wheel and whatnot. But since this wasn't designed for a touchscreen, they couldn't have the screen recessed into the dashboard the way it is now, disrupting the flow. But once you forget that, it's still a beautiful cabin, and you have gauge cluster that may be limited in what it can display, but it looks awesome, and I love that it can move the little tachometer. It's just fun, but these seats are all about business. They hold you very tight, especially your seat bottom. In fact, if you're wider than myself, then over a really long journey, they may grow tiresome, but I still think most people will be very happy with these. They're extremely supportive, though notably it's only a two-way adjustable lumbar, and there's no seat cushion extender, though neither hinder the experience for me. The back seats are unimpressive, both for the coupe, but especially the convertible. The top is gonna take up a little bit more space, and yeah, it's an overstatement to call them a suggestion, though I did figure out a way to fit an adult in both the front and rear.
Oh, oh God, oh!
And if I'm to nitpick, I wish the outboard elbow rests were a little more padded and that I didn't need to slide back the center console in order to use the limited storage. And the trunk is also very shallow. I'm not even going to attempt to sit in it, though at the very least it has some width. It could fit a modest set of golf clubs and a couple carry-on bags. The next reason you buy the LC500 is the most important one, and that is the engine. So you have 471 peak horsepower. You have to spin this thing up to 7,100 RPM in order to get it, and you're gonna wanna do that all the f***ing time. So there's actually a pipe that more clearly expresses the induction sound of the 5-liter naturally aspirated V8. This is a dual overhead cam unit. It comes with port and direct fuel injection to help keep your performance very consistent down the road. You'll have 398 pound-feet of torque. It's always an effortless engine, but that does mean it will be outperformed by most turbo V6 and V8 competitors that just have a lot more grunt. But this engine is so charismatic that I really could not care less. I still wish this did have some form of launch control. Even without it, the acceleration will keep you in the back of your seat. Now 0 to 60 there at a somewhat high density altitude with a little bit of wheel spin came up in 4.7 seconds. One tick behind what Lexus says should be possible. But this kind of car is more about passing power than it is outright brutal acceleration from a dig. Traction is going to be the biggest issue, but this does do a pretty good job of putting down the power, and the 10-speed automatic I think is geared perfectly. Most of those gears come in at higher speeds and they're designed to make for more refined highway driving. So that's another reason why I really like this powertrain. Just at all speeds, it's smooth, it's extremely reactive, both with throttle response and the way that it jumps down to the right gear. In fact, I almost had to get used to it on the highway because most automatics aren't so second nature. It knows what I want more than I know what I want. The gas mileage also isn't that bad whenever you're not driving it how I'm driving it right now. On the highway and through some mixed driving, I was getting around 25, 26. Now that I've been putting it through a little bit more abuse and idling for longer, we're down to 21. And if you think this sounds like an amazing car, but you really need to save gas money, you can buy it as a hybrid, which uses a 3.5-liter V6 in tandem with a motor paired to an eCVT 4-speed automatic combo. It's down on power and is a hair heavier than its V8 counterpart, but yeah, running cost. Now dropping the suspension into comfort mode, this thing shows off the next reason why I would pick one up, and that is because it's a true grand touring car. It eats up this road quite easily, and it stays very composed while doing it. The Lexus glides over small to medium brakes in the tarmac, though it has its limits. Now over this godforsaken road, the Lexus is not at home. I'm really worried about those low profile wheels, but the suspension is remarkably smooth and not very disturbed. Now, once I start hitting the deeper imperfections, then it does make its way into the cabin, though it does it in a manner that's far from harsh. It's more so designed to smooth out the small undulations and breaks in the pavement. This also does come with a Yamaha performance dampener, which is an odd transversely mounted device that is supposed to reduce body vibrations. And Yamaha offers a hilarious illustration if you were wondering. Even with the convertible, high-speed road noise is well under control. With the available screen in place, wind buffeting with the top down is minimal. Now, something that I was kind of surprised to be impressed by was the handling. Despite it being a 4,300 pound coupe from Lexus, of all brands, it's pretty fun to drive. So you have relatively quick steering here, complemented by low levels of body roll for this kind of grand touring vehicle. Here with, the Torsen limited slip differential, pulls out of corners nicely, and in Sport S Plus, the steering is numb, but it's more direct, well-weighted, and just connected feeling when compared to the IS500 that I drove not too long ago and some other sports cars. It's still not like, an outrageously fun car. Pick up a little bit of steam, and It's not scary to brake. This is performance pads and appropriately giant rotors for this sort of vehicle. Even in its sportiest setting, this isn't going to be rock hard, but it's more so about giving you an ultimate level of confidence as you push it through any sort of road than it is about rejuvenating your testosterone levels. And the Prius-esque shifter doesn't help that cause either. Now, another big proponent to owning a naturally aspirated V8 Lexus is reliability, and I think that's really a big differentiating factor between this and basically all of the competition. This is not a new engine at this point. In fact, it has been used for over a decade, and the common issues that it had were pertaining to the valley plate leaks, and then it also suffered some fuel pump problems, which were fixed via recall. Some other issues that owners have reported include things like an interior rattle coming from a few different places, like the struts or the brake light housing on the coupes, I believe. Now, this model obviously doesn't sell big numbers, but other cars in the Lexus lineup that use this engine have run into AC mildew issues, water pump leaks, and catalytic converter failures way down the road. Again, this has direct and port fuel injection, so it should keep your intake valves clean. If you're worried about the reliability of this power top, which I'm sure is extremely expensive to replace, Lexus says that they've tested it 3 times the amount of your average convertible. Overall, it's a complicated car. Lexuses are not cheap to fix when they do break. Something that some people have reported are problems with the actuators and the door handles, which Lexus's part website says at least the driver's side costs $1,600. So yeah, I would still try to get a warranty if I owned one of these things. But with a car like this, dependability is more important than running costs. The chances are it's not going to break down and keep you from attending that important conference or golf tournament. And with the type of people buying $100,000 cars, the high costs of maintenance or an occasional repair are less important than wasting their time chasing some mechanical gremlin or getting stuck somewhere. Now let's talk about the downsides. Well, this is more of a reality than it is a drawback. It's not a supercar. It doesn't handle like one. It's not as quick as one. Also, looking at the comfort side of things, it's not a Luxo barge. It doesn't float over everything. You get over bad roads like I just did, and you'll feel it. It's a comfortable car that's never abusive, but it does make some compromises. And there are other shortcomings too. Obviously, the backseat is better used as a tool for gymnasts. There's only 2 cup holders. One of them is small and kind of poorly placed, and the other isn't very well shaped. The trunk is a limitation for people who want to take this thing on longer road trips. And the 2024 model's touchscreen just doesn't work as well aesthetically with this dashboard. But to be honest, those are all minor inconveniences to me. In my head, this is the perfect grand touring car. It feels like most cars aiming for high-end markets are obsessed with grabbing attention through tossing in more tech, making it incredibly fast on a track or painfully quick in a straight line, but the LC500 ignores all of that. None of its stats or features are impressive for the money. Its philosophy seems to be centered around the experience, not surface-level entertainment or extreme capabilities. The V8 is outgunned by many, but the sound and power delivery are intoxicating. The interior isn't outrageously flashy, but it's beautiful with 6-figure build quality. The sheet metal pays attention to every detail, and the additions for 2024 make it a little easier to live with. To top it off, you have the peace of mind that it will last however long you need it to. If you can stomach the price tag, there are better new cars out there, but I can't think of one I'd rather buy. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, then leave a like to help me pump up the channel. Subscribe and hit the notification bell for more fun, detailed car content without fluff. Check out my Patreon for an additional podcast, and I'll catch you in the next one.